And hi, all my TikTok followers that jump over my AAs, my double A's. It's been a while. I know that not as many follow as did back in the first 2017, 2018, 2019, whenever I started this channel. And there's a reason why. Because of what I'm on here talking about right now. As you can see, I just woke up a little bit ago, and I have had to have more oral surgery. And over the past 30 days, I've had to have 6 teeth pulled. 6. The reason I had to have those pulled, and the reason a lot of you might be having teeth problems, losing teeth, breaking teeth, pain in your mouth, is because of what I'm going to be talking about right now. It's the great work. There's a couple of people that have talked about the great work, and it is what the collective work together to do and unwind within the cosmic settings during a 1,000,000-year reset. And it all has to do with astronomy, and it all has to do with cosmic power and cosmic, etheric, natural cycles that, unbeknownst to the human race as a whole, over the last over 1,000,000 years, had been being done for us. It had been being done over us. It had been being this process of rebirth and this process of connection had been being done for us. Why? Because there wasn't enough of us awake down here inside the dome, inside the simulation, in order for when those energies and those planets and that alignment opened up, which it did. It did full scale in 2020. It's what it was all about. Pluto and Saturn on top of each other at 20 degrees of Capricorn. Basically, well, Saturn's all your karmic lessons, and Saturn's what, either good or bad. Saturn is your life plan that gets projected down here, which is what's restarted now. That Saturn's finally going direct. Saturn's on Fomalhaut, which is Archangel Gabriel, and which is one of your archangel points right now. It's almost at 3 degrees dead on, which I know there's going to be something that's going to pop off when Saturn clicks in to 3 degrees right there and sends a ray down to 3 degrees Virgo. There's going to be something that pops off around here. I'll look at the chart here in a minute. It's 11:38 on the clock. I got an 11:11. Pluto is your soul lessons. I mean, this is even why Cali and Cal State tried to get rid of Pluto. They tried to unmanifest Pluto because Pluto is your soul lessons, and it's attached into each family line, DNA line, because it's how it works and trickles down. It's how it did work until we had to rewrite through the last 4 years. As a collective, we claimed who we were in this bubble. Enough of us had claimed in order to stack those programs and stack our etheric bodies like in a star. I'm even seeing like an original Starlink satellite, if you will, but instead of being just a string out there going flat and horizontal, it's vertical. Just like any tower that you build, just like any building that you build, just like how the sediment was laid over millions, thousands, billions of years of time down here. So what happened was, is the entire collective was healing our DNA lines, was working through our stuff. The original 100 volunteers that turned into 1,000 volunteers that turned into 144,000, that then even got cut off, and we had to rebirth the whole thing again. Now, what I want everyone to realize is that in the past 4 years, what I'm explaining has really started and stopped. And I'm hearing 2 to 3 times, depending on depending on where we are talking in the process. This part of rebuilding and claiming and claiming. And the reason that we claim is because it links us into the most ancient Akashic libraries that were always laid here within the pyramid system for this. This even goes back to your Enoch Enlil stuff. This goes back into the DNA lines and giving humans the power to get out of this, and why the war in heaven took place, and that whole story has to do with what is happening right now and what's been happening the past 4 years. When we claimed and claimed and claimed, and then all moved into position to push us up into a horizontal etheric body that stands us up and tells us exactly where we're supposed to be in space, where we're supposed to be in an evolution, and what our reality is supposed to, how it's supposed to react to us with the human DNA that we had claimed and reconnected into the cosmos. It's like trying to put Superman in handcuffs, because you can't. I mean, Superman can go along. We can say, yeah, you can handcuff me and we can go along with it, but I can break out of this whenever I want. It's really like that because of how long this has been going on. The experiments, the merging of DNA, what was being created down here with our DNA, even outside of a human. Now we're talking about droids, clones, all the rockets, satellites, all these technology things were all even programmed to your DNA sequence, or the DNA was used to make it. Flying cars, any type of intelligence that was running, because it's almost like they built an entire, like a mind machine connected with all the collective. This is in their world, and this is what we're coming out of right now. I mean, right now. That's why I'm on here. Because what it looked like, and this even makes sense in the journey as to getting out of this, because realize that I know all of this because we walked it in order to get the DNA out of it, put it back together, and I was your hidden astronomist. So I was the one that was down here at the claiming at the very top and at the very bottom, holding these kite strings and being conscious of these lineups since 2018. Now, what date popped up this morning was, and because I went back, and I'm going to add some little tips here. Right now, what's happening in the collective is that what I just talked about right here in the very hi y'all, thank you for being here. Right now is what's the process that was going on in 2018. And but it's a cleaned up process with a lot more notes basically. So 2018 and how I even know all this and how I was taught this and how I was connected in with all of you to relearn this. And in 2018 we were still, and why we were having to do it in 2018 is the same reason that we're having to do it right now. The reason is our bodies, when they're fully connected, tell us where to go in space. They tell the realm, the human sets the energetic realm, and this has not happened down here for a really long time the way it's supposed to, because the energetic realm was set to where it was dictating the human. Not anymore. In 2018, and I want to go into this because this is what's happening with a lot of y'all, and I think a woman named Shell who was talking with me last night on TikTok and asking me a bunch of questions, and I was grateful for it because it was reminding me of what I need to know right now and what's going on. Whenever you go through it and you kind of see it as the past, and then some of the most important things that we did were stuff that we did in the beginning, and then we think that it's over, and in a way it is, but then that cycle starts over again, and then you forget these little tricks, and you forget how it started. And what is happening now is that all of your ancestors, because the lines have been corrected. So for me, I'll just use me as an example. Since I was an AB negative, I was attached into Einstein and Tesla. Those two were the big ones. At first it became out Tesla, then it was Disney. Because Disney and Tesla were basically twins, made of each other, two different sides of a coin to affect the same thing. How it starts and what's happening as you go into these higher realms, and it's a little bit different now than it was in 2018 because now the lines are correct. If you're in and you'll get the information, and your ancestors and your guides or your angels, whatever you call them, your higher self, are connecting in with you and sending you a lot of different messages, and it's going to get stronger and stronger, especially as we go into the end of the year and the new year. When they first connect with you, what they're trying to see is if you're hearing them. What they're trying to see is because really what's happening is that information is being held in that time count. So what's happening right now is that the collective, the entire collective, not just a handful of us, the entire collective now is moving back up into that same energy frequency that happened in 2018 that allowed us to connect this, except it's really depending on who you are, depending on where your bubble is, depending on where you are in the world. What you're really picking up is the echoes and the reverbs from all of the information that was put together by all of us with these energies since 2018. So you have a lot of notes now. You have a lot of extra information that all of us have put in and put into these files, and in a lot of ways it's like we're just hey we're you're hearing the same, what you're hearing, feeling, sensing as as you come into that energy current, because you're standing in it and it's approaching you. what you're kind of getting is just these little sounds and these little feelings and whatever feelings we had as we connected it and came through the first time. And the first thing is they want to know if you hear them. So you might have, this is where you all of a sudden need to go to the store, or are you going to drop everything and go to the store? The message is go to the store, but do you really need to go? You don't know, who goes to the store. That in this situation, that in this example would prove who got the message. Or even sitting in your room, and you might hear, look to the right. Now if you're the one who turned your head, look to the left. What do you see? I see a baby and a woman. Write it down. See, this is how it happened to me, because what's happening is everything, all these energies are swarming, kind of like a bunch of balloons. You're trying to figure out what balloons are attached to you, and this is how it happens. For me, because I knew numerology. Now the information is only going to come into you the way and how you know it and what your gifts are. So don't try to do numerology or try to do codes, or don't think that you're not equipped. Use whatever gifts you have and that have propagated for this already, because it's coming into you for a reason, not you needing to get a total rewrite to connect with it. Does that make sense? So I'll give you the example, but don't feel like you've got to do it like this. I would hear, look to the left, write it down, woman and child, and then I'd hear, okay, do the numerology. So I'd write down, I'd sit there and do the numbers for woman and child. Then I'd hear, look to the right. What do you see? 2 hats. Write it down. 2 hats. Purple. Write it down. Then I would get a series of these numbers, and then they'd start showing me how to plot them. They'd start showing me, because basically it was like all I needed. It didn't have anything to do with the woman and the child, didn't have anything to do with the color purple. It's interesting that's coming up right now, though. The color purple, it had everything to do with they chose to deliver that message, because those numbers in my world are the ones that needed to show up for those number patterns for woman and child, 2 hats, purple. Well, we should look that up. Number 1, woman and child, 2 hats, color purple, and gematria. That's a message. Those numbers then would show me, I don't know, it could be like latitude, longitude lines. It could, but see, once you get it into numbers, then your body reads it, the information, a different way, and then it gives you a different message. That's how this is happening. And it's happening within the entire collective right now, no matter what level you're moved up into or what information you're having to kind of dip back down to get, because they're up and down, left and right, whatever. I hear turn on your purple lights. We got a lot of stuff going on with purple today, right now. Now, so that's what's happening. And it's, if you go back to, how we were doing things in 2018 and being really super conscious about making sure that when you leave your house, call in the highest timeline, okay? Every day waking up and calling for your consciousness to be clear, just stating it. Calling in for your body to be attached into the cosmos and the planetary system the way it needs to be. And now you can add the ascended cosmic layer, right? Just little bitty things that we were all having to, even conscious breathing. these little bitty things that all of us, and as we were coming through this the first time as a collective in order to get where we are now, had to do, because it's a layer that now is producing a different energy than it ever has before, because of those of us who have already gone up, cleared it, and connected it. Now you've got a whole bunch of other beings that are coming up into that energetic field, and it changes it. Because each being that comes in, or each bubble that comes in, it changes the frequency a little bit, because now you've got a different pinball for it to plug and run off of. And so even for us that are up in that layer, we're getting more information, because we did it all together to begin with. It's like we got, all of us that were ancients basically realize that we had to lose ourselves completely. Those of us like me that had to, and I'm going to start crying, those of us that were hidden for this and only had 4 years to complete it, because we changed 4 years of time. And it's this last 4 years. And I believe that it all went down, from what I'm seeing right now, on December 28th, 2019. And I just posted the chart on Taco from that, because I had it in my files. This was the chart. Look how clean that is. Have you ever seen anything like it before? This is December 28th, 2019. It was a Saturday. And to even complicate it and make it even more official, the day before this, me being your cog for the collective that's supposed to be finding your place in the cosmos, and I should have been around the most ancient beings in the world at this time, because that's where they were. They had congregated all together in order to make an energetic somewhere in order to hold this gate. But me, myself, I was in Temple, Texas the day before. 4 years ago today, I was in Temple, Texas. And that is your temple of your brain, of your head, a monument, the way that it's all underground. It's the temple. And I was with the Goff family, Mary and Dan. Dan was already gone by this time. He passed in 2017. Mary ended up passing a couple of years later. Dan died as soon as I activated. They were all in the remnant church. And then they have daughters. Everybody's named Mary Elizabeth, freaking all of them. And then 2 adopted children and my son. And so we were all in Temple, Texas, and had gone on a road trip. As all of this was connecting into Capricorn. And see how Saturn is 20. Now, remind you, this is right before the 2020 lineup. January 1, 2020. Because this is December 27th. The Sun and Jupiter were conjunct. And this is where the Sun right now. The Sun is right in between. I think I'll pull it up in just a second. But the Sun, I believe, is 5 something of Capricorn. This is where the sun is now. And Mercury was on the Elton antenna on this day, which is the furthest point way out in Sagittarius and galactic space that hinges this bubble to basically kind of like plants it somewhere, plants it at the end, and it was planted at what you'd call the ocean floor. But it was really a big old Stargate portal. Now we know. 5 degrees Capricorn too is all about politics. It was all about geogrids, GIS grids, basically sedation silos, everything to do with skull and bones that was used in politics for the last however many hundreds of years. Because 1923 has been dead and gone a bunch of times. There's no way that what we just got out of had only been there for 80 years. It's not possible. Because over time and doing it over and over and over and over and over again is how this became so massive and so complex, because the grids and the energy that used to be used externally on the outside of you to hold us into a grid system then became part of our body. There became a shift point within all of this where different ones of us that were more evolved then basically, if you will, had that fencing system within your DNA codes. So it was like you couldn't get out of it. That sound about right? Now, this is where the sun is right now. The other part of this that is blowing my freaking Cocker Spaniel is Mars. See, this was their collective spell that they did in 2019, right before the 2020 shift, on a 200-year plan. On a 200-year plan that everything started down here in 1996. This whole plan for who you'd consider the elites and da-da-da-da-da-da started up in 1996, because in 1996 is when they ported in to our dimension from a 1969 timeline. Well, this is where Venus is right now. Venus is at 26 degrees of Scorpio right now. So if you will, it took Venus 4 years to come back with a collective energetic response from what Mars did December 2019, while we were all still we were awakening. This is why all of my healers and all of y'all that are in my badass spiritual warriors and gangsters, all of us that are going, when the hell is this going to change? What the fuck are we waiting for? Why is it taking so long? Is this never going to happen? What are, because it's a bit at a time. It's a change at a time that's coming in, but those changes come in and set per the collective frequency. Let me say it again. Those changes come in and set per the collective frequency. That's why it was always, you only needed one. And that's why I kept screaming, just help me. I'm all the way up there. Come on. Don't attack me. Don't attack me, because we only need one. You wanted me to get all the way out. 2 of us got out. 2 of us got out, but do you know that we turned into nothing? Like, literally, I was a SIM card. Your SIM card and your MEM card. Literally. And I'm going to start crying again. Your SIM card with all of your skeletal data that's the true origin of data from the cosmos since the beginning of a 1,000,000-year structure over time that had all been rewritten with all of you to determine exactly what families, what lines, what power should be where, that constructs what we call our reality, our land, and where we gravitate to in space and time to line up the human body and the human experience in an appropriate bubble that is held to interact with your most evolved humans. Not the lowest degree of human down here, held down and barred to so that the lowest frequency controls it. Because that's what Mars set up in 2019. And notice how this is going directly over to Pluto and Saturn. What happened the next month? Those two aligned at 22 degrees. And this setup that they did right now on the collective, coming out of Christmas, our energetics waiting for this alignment on a Gregorian calendar that's going to influx really in July, because depending on what calendar system you're in right now, we're either at the beginning of something or we're in the middle of it. Because if the new year is really in July, then that is going to be 7 months from now. You see what I'm saying? So we're in the middle of it or at the beginning of it, depending on which cycle your information is coming in. Because this is where everything gets screwed up, because there were different cycles of time that were coming in. Now that goes directly over to Neptune. Directly over to Neptune. So what this did, whatever this spell was that they did right here, what it did was put a gate on 16 degrees of Pisces, which held it right here at 16 degrees of Virgo. And 16 degrees of Virgo is right above sea level. 4 degrees actually, because at 20 degrees of Virgo is when we hit sea level. So here we are with our 4s again. And set up a bubble on Virgo with all that Capricorn in it. Set up a lower frequency bubble that was being governed from the outside in, and then shrunk us basically in a way, cut us off from that consciousness. And this is why all of us in 2018 had cleared the Trail of Tears. We'd cleared Venus. We brought Venus back in. Remember? We had to clean the Trail of Tears. We had to clean Venus. We had to open up the original Alpha Draconic lines. I had to go into a white Draco realm, a dragon realm that was outside of our galaxy, and out there in space. 2018, what I entered into, and this is why I was hidden here. It's why I'm one of them, but I'm not like them. Because I was always the one down here that was being done onto. All because I come and tell you the truth. And because I wasn't ever, the plan was never to give a whole bunch of beings a bunch of power to control everybody. The plan was always to connect the beings down here so that the power is given to the people, so that, because it's how the human design works. It's the true human experiment, and it's the only way that it can sustain, especially in higher evolved counts. Because when the human is designed down here to be in such high frequency, there's a bubble that it's making. And this is why we were disconnected from the higher to the point where, a lot of us had to be guardians of the galaxy. And I'll tell you, and I keep saying it and I'll keep saying it, 2019, whenever this went down, and there were some lineups there was an eclipse in January 2019, so 11 months before this, that locked in, because it was a 1,000,000 year count And then my role at that time was from the Egyptian plateau to lock and line up the sun and the moon. Well, I remember that day clearly. It was me and another AB negative named Amanda that did it. Amanda even ended up being a name for like a Siri character, Amanda, a dame even. Amanda became a name for a mimic in a lower bubble, right? When we cleared through, it was like, because it was a seal that was out in space on this alpha Drac layer that was like, I'm seeing cartilage tissue that's like dead. Whenever you get paper and you crackle because you're moving it around, or you have scar tissue in your body and you're trying to get it out, and whenever you move it, it like kind of has this like crackling because it's not fresh. It doesn't have blood flow, so it becomes hardened. There's that name. See, that alpha Drac layer, since everything for so long had been connected into that line, but at the deepest point, but with no life, because it was like they were governing everything from the bottom down here, because they weren't in the human race at this point. This is what the vaccines and this is what the experimentations and all that we've lived through in our lifetime were here to solve for them. But it worked the opposite, depending on what your intention was. That layer down here was running the human experience because us humans inside the bubble that were putting off this higher frequency the whole time were creating a realm with your character, with all your energy in it, that then they were able, and what they were doing was basic able. Interesting. Maybe through able. Through AB. Making AB blood, siphoning everybody's blood in the collective in order to make one alpha Drac character that really wasn't necessarily human, that then was jumping over the collective and jumping up into these higher bubbles that we weren't controlling, because we were kind of locked down in this bubble. And when we cleared through that white Draco energy, that's when it all went nuts, because once we got in there, this is where a lot of it started to be shrouded. And for the past 4 years, we were blipped in and out of it. We were taken out. We were blown out. We were this and this and this, because there weren't very many that could see where we were. Only really the ones that are watching in the alpha Drac because this is the way it was set up, could see us in these layers, because no one else had sight. Not to mention, as we were in those layers, we were changing it. When we were in those layers, the reason that we had gone into those layers was to connect it all back into the human design, so that we could make this whole, so that all of us could shoot up through it. And basically how it happened was enough of us shot up through it and expanded. So as soon as we shot up through, after we finally got through, which has only really, really, really happened in the past couple of months, since August. We blew the hole in August with the collective, with the human, because all of us going, nope, we ain't having it, is what allowed us to keep going, because the human designs this, not anything that's outside of the human. That's why it's universal law. It's why it's coming down. It's why it's not going to hold. When we got up there, we expanded like big wings and basically like set on top of it. Now I'm seeing Antarctica again. Now I'm seeing the flat earth experiment. Now I'm seeing even how long we were trapped there, because as we went up there and then we expanded, now it becomes like a seal on top of this middle where all the humans are. Okay? And then it just like Antarctica or an ice cap, it's got to melt into as the humans are energy is coming up to meet it. And right there in between in Capricorn, that's where your vector passes happened. I hope you're following along with me. If I had some graphics, or if you know an illustrator where we can make some documentaries about this and actually give it to you in visual, it needs to be done. So if y'all know anybody, please contact me and let's get going. And anybody that's working in the industry that used our energy in order to make BS movies, in order to cause wars up there, you now need to report to me so that we can fix it. And if you don't, you're going to lose your career, you're going to lose your resources, you're going to lose everything. Because nothing down here should be assisting this stronghold if it's coming from technology and the collective, because we are your technology and collective. We know that you can't use our system in order to make a war up here, in order to keep a giant zit, because it's basically what it was. Inner Earth was a giant zit, always trying to come out, a giant implant, always trying to push out, always trying to get out. And all of us became trapped in these silos, because when you look at this chart, remember, it's not flat. It's not flat. This version is flat, but if I pull it on its side and I start charting how these go up, down, in, out, these energies, when you're staring at this, you're going to realize it's like a spiral that goes up and down with some staircases, some back doors, some weird crap, because of what had been manifested and built when the planets were on it before by humans. Whether that be satellites, gates, portals, whatever, good and bad. It's all hitting Neptune. Mars was going straight up to Saturn and Pluto and then hitting Neptune. Well, Neptune's your subconscious, and this is what we knew. This is what happened in 2020. This is why people changed so drastically, because they took over the subconscious. Let's talk about that. Because if this bubble is held in and it's your brain, because basically when you get up over and you get into Arcturus and you get into the higher houses, it is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with one brain of the entire collective. See, we know this because we's putting it back together. They know this because they's tearing it apart or trying to take it over. That's why all of them get the black eye. I just put a video up about this on Taco. When the natural rebirth process of this planet, if you're a natural being that is rebirthing the planet and a part of rebirthing the energetic of the human race, there will be a time where you get a sty or you get something. It always showed up as a sty. The first time it was in this eye, then it showed up in this eye. Years later, after we had to do it again. But it's your first heart plasma that is even in an embryonic state when you're making a baby and the heart is starting to form. That first plasma doesn't come through the heart, it comes in your eye. And this connection from here to here, into your eye, into your mouth, because there's a vein then that goes all the way down into your nervous system down here. All this mess that even fever blisters and uh even a form of that people called it herpes. What it really is an alpha dracon. It's part of your alpha draconic body system, but it's a nerve netting system that's inside your body. Can't get rid of it. It is what it is. But those nerve nets and all of that were all made in order to control and to trigger the human field. Even was made over time, some of it by sewing our mouth shuts to keep us quiet. Whether it be a voodoo doll or whatever. Because it does end up manifesting if the right people are doing it with the right connections into the human race. The same way that we can save the bloodline and the same way we can rewrite blood, they were doing the same thing for nefarious purposes in order to keep it low. This jumps us, now let me look at, I'm going to pull the chart real quick to where it is right now, because we just looked at that one, so just give me a second. Thank y'all for being here. I look like total dog crap. My mouth has been swollen. It was a big deal for us to pull these roots in your teeth because the mouth was the last defense. What we all figured out is this is why we all, everybody was blaming us and saying, oh, their teeth are rotting out because they're doing black magic. No, they're rotting because you did the black magic to us and our bodies, because our body was connected in with the rest of the human code. We had rewritten the human code. And so what happened was you're trying to send a bone marrow charge to us, almost like a keyboard. You're trying to send a bone marrow charge to have everyone's marrow frequency change so that it'll go boop. Because if they send the right blood marrow charge to the right one of us and it takes, and we're your leader, now, in a lot of ways, this is even describing what happened with Aluna Ash's gang and the Discord and getting pulled into Discord and me losing and us losing so many of our templates, our pure templates in 2018 because it was pulled into Discord. 12:22 on the clock. Venus right now 27 degrees. Where was it on the other chart? On 20, it was 20, because usually we're like a day off because we have a day out of time, and then it even things could, when what's even more confusing right now is that day could turn into 10 days. And I really feel like because we had so many 04310, I mean, because we've had three 10-day periods where we had 4 days that equaled 1, 3 days that equaled 1, because as a collective since August, we've gone into that over 3 times because it was all getting reset in time. Like time stood still for us to, on those 10-day counts. So if the calendar's off 1 day, if it's just off 24 hours, that could even mean that then that's off 10 days. So this is where it kind of gets confusing whenever you're unweaving or weaving time. It's why we have to stay conscious, those of us. It's why your most ancient with the most ancient connections are the ones that are holding your kite strings so that it can stay correct whenever a gust of wind comes. We ain't going to lose everybody. It's anchored too deep, too high. Now, it might make it do this a minute. which is kind of what the world's in right now. It's kind of the state that we're in right now. And I'm going to get into this. I'm going to end shortly after I explain this 33 masonry. Venus coming back with a counter spell. Elon Musk, open up. Take this. Donald Trump, Marduk, open up. Take this. Enlil, Labs, Cabal, open up. Take this. Now, this chart's a trip. I see what's happening right now? Venus has a straight, see this 90-degree angle? Well, it's all about angles down here in masonry, was it not? That's what it's all about. It's all about this G angle controlling this circle. This is why this circle is empty. This shouldn't be empty. You should see all of these intersect, because this is where you are in your chart. This is where we are in the chart. So if you will, we're right here, and what do we got? A table. A complete blue table. It's all blue lines. It's just kind of like an etheric. It's not fully in, it's not being pulled. It's not being restricted. It's more like Venus popped up a pillar. Boom. It's a pillar of light. Boom. It went to Pluto. Boom. Over here to Uranus. 1929. You know what that is? 929, that's 1111. 9 plus 2 is 11. 2 plus 9 is 11. So guess what this is? This is 5 ones. You know what? If you want to write this down, if you see 5 ones, that's Antares codes. 5 ones is Antares codes. Antares, Archangel, Galactic Gate. Other side of Michael. Michael was our problem. Everybody's Michael was the problem. 929, so that's 111. So then the moon right now on Sirius B, inside the mind, 12 to 16 degrees is Sirius B. That's the collective mind. So right now the moon has reminded us, we set this up. We're back in, that's why this is all coming in right now, because we set this, and this is what we've all been doing for 4 years. Is building these pillars. Now notice this one's off just a little bit. Like a little back door. This one goes straight up. See how this one's just off a little bit. Now at the same time, Venus is going straight over to Neptune. And Neptune is your subconscious. That's the same maneuver. There's Mars. Pluto and Saturn, Neptune. And this is why Epstein was called Epstein. Epstein is Neptune. Neptune, EP, an EpiPen, a pen, period, P-E-N, a Stein, an EIN number, which is a tax ID code, because they had basically made the Antarctica machine of the cosmic rebirth cycles into a giant corporate owned, I'm hearing zapping pit. Because what also sucked for us, and why all of us who know our energy is being used for money supply, but we can't exactly figure it out. How is our energy being used to make money? You know that your energy is definitely being used for the technology, but you can't quite figure it out. Well, that's because whenever you come up into a higher layer that's set, your energy comes into that layer and it sets off a bunch of alarms. And it changes the whole current in that layer. Even if you're just the first one coming in, What if you're the first one coming into that layer and there's 7 billion in the layer? See, this is why it took 4 years. This is why so many of us were attacked for so long. It's why we were trained. It's what it was. Whenever you come up and you change that current, but then you've got, let's just say that you've got 6. Let's just say you've got the secret 6. Or let's say that you have MJ12, which MJ12 is the 6 up there and the 6 down there, connected to the secret 6 that were in this alpha draconic, that nobody really even knew who they were. And through their spell work and through their masks and through every single cult down here, every single industry, the music industry is by far the worst on my list right now with what's been coming in the past 3 days. So the music industry, the NATO, the whatever, they're, and all their minions, all they had their minions doing was giving them the power in order to become and put into one vessel one of these secret 6 entities, that then these 6 down here pop up in our world as a governing agent from a bubble that was up here that we couldn't even get to. Well, when we started getting into it, when we started busting through those layers and then getting our ass kicked, your energy creates a new current. So then it was all about getting, because they knew that they couldn't keep all of us from the layers. In fact, they wanted us to come through that layer. They just didn't want all of us to punch through. They just wanted 1 to get through in one layer, 3 to get through in another layer, 4 to get through in another layer. They needed 12 on one layer. And if you're looking at the whole thing from a macro huge perspective, over a birthing process, it's not hard to see when that happens. We punched through, and then they got to work to figure out how to bind that up, because there's a new current in town that then they wanted to regulate. And it's how we got stuck in those different realms producing their current. Bitcoin, great example. Bitcoin, digital currency, great example. Our bodies as a collective and the technology that our bodies hold and how our fields interact with the cosmos, which is what technology is. Technology is the cosmos without the human. That's what's changed. That's why I pop off DNA codes, and that's why I have Trinity codes, and that's why whenever you're in the game, your whole world and your reality is being shown to you like you're in a giant tarot card reading. You can't escape it, depending on which layers you're in. We're not quite right there again, to where we're not in that weird tarot reading energy. Not quite yet. We've got to get through January 3rd. Now let me tell you why. This realm and what you knew throughout history since Egypt was pinned to not move and the bubble pinning the collective down. The bubble reached to 88D. 88D, 88 dimensions, the 88th dimension, 88. Now, 88 is 2 infinity symbols. 88 is also a weird not it really is like a Nazi swastika. This is why it's good or bad depending on what side of the swastika you're on. Are you on the ancient side of the swastika, trapped on the other side of the ice wall, or are you, because that's what the Nazis used to get in. They wanted to show you that. That's how it. That's I mean, showing and putting that swastika everywhere in World War II, and everyone seeing it is what brought us to that Stargate. FY, it's mind blowing, isn't it? An 88 gate, whenever you're seeing any codes 88 or 888, know that that is a portal to a division layer. All depends. Is it opening up the layer right above and right below it, or is it opening up the one way up there and the one way down there? It all depends on where you're at in your journey. But basically, whenever your energetic body goes through an 88 gate, it twists your Osiris one direction, it twists your Isis another direction, boop, and it basically, when it's working against you, pins you. It pins half of you somewhere and half of you another, because it's what an 88, that's what an 88 is what it is. Now, whenever you're seeing it, because it's all being undone right now, then an 88 is, I call it a hell gate, because there's going to be a lower realm and a higher realm that you're undoing with, okay? And this is where your mastery comes in. It's where your light and shadow has to be balanced, only because a part of you is undoing, a part of you is going counterclockwise, a part of you the other part's going clockwise. You know, your core is what balances that out. And whenever you balance out that 88 gate, what you do is you put a pin in it going vertical, and then that pin gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because it was holding you there. You've basically put a pin in it to where you've blocked the closing, and now your energy is course correcting itself to balance out, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, this could be your neck, this could be your head, this could be your knee, it could be your thumb. I don't know. As far as the big etheric body, I mean, we's pinned all over the place. Could be your tongue, depending on what part of energetic body that it's now coming undone. Now, I say all that because everything was pinned at the 88D. Think about that a second. This conversation that I had with this woman last night brought an analogy to me. She said, "Oh, I see. It's like a tapestry." I was like, "Yeah." But the natural cosmic tapestry is the one that I'm talking to you about right now. The natural cosmic tapestry ain't pinned at 88D. The natural cosmic tapestry is the one that's undoing everything, that's making everything chaos right now. So it lines up to a natural cosmic tapestry. This cosmic tapestry had a bunch of magnets, had a bunch of pins, and it wasn't made in full human DNA. It was a net. It was made in order to attract the foreign agent in your body and suck you into that net with the foreign agent, not the human, to take us off course, to build a separate parallel. You get enough humans in there thinking that's where you are, then you pull the whole collective away, and then you're caught and you're trapped. Now, if they're really weird little foreign tapestry, because foreign, even the word foreign, four in, holding a pillar, a box, Mecca even, four in. Man, it won't let me go on that. Hold on. Four in. EIGN. Well, back to EIN again. If you really stop and look at the words and how many words, especially in the government and stuff, have EIN in it. Biden, for instance. Birthday, IEN, is hidden. It's in so many of them because that's how they were working that Babylonian tapestry. It was like these tones and these phonetics in this false energetic, and it's how easy it became in the end for them to just change some words, change some names, because your human DNA was building it. Whenever you see that word, your human DNA was building more tax collection. I have a little rap song that has this in it. Calm and collected, we stood under Texas as we broke out from hexes from the belly of the AI tax collectors. Hibbity hobbity. Playboy DNA made by wine in the gang. Hibbity hobbity. You must forget to not break a sweat as you wrap gold around Cleo's neck. Hibbity hobbity. Popo and pigs, pirates and wigs. Hibbity hoppity. See, that's that 88D net. Now, the human, and we know this for sure, and you don't want to call it in. 55D, as high as you can go. 55D is as high as you can go in a human form before you turn to nothing but codes and air and energy. And then at 55, what happens is it becomes a Trinity degree. 55, well, actually, 4. And then a Trinity, because 55 is 1001. It doubles down. It's like playing blackjack and you double down. You got 2 now. You go all, the human energy code goes all the way up to 55D. Then basically what happens is you become kind of like a piece of that bubble, and then you start mirroring back down. 1001 then becomes 020. What year did Pluto and Saturn align? 2020. What year did everything flip? 2000. Now, what's 88 minus 55? 33. Now, what did I say at the very beginning? There was a group down here that was your secret six that everybody's all wearing masks. There's just a bunch of entities stacked up on each other, and I went toe to toe with the Kanye West one whenever I did that speaker Ray. That's why I know what I'm telling you is true, that black magic and all their spells and all their rituals and all their sacrifices, all that shit was in order to build up their own big rock man, literally, that would take pole over a true Cleopatra, Queen of Judah, the true lines, the Essenes, the true Egyptians, the mummification, all of that. That was what your land was, in the earth soil was made out of. It basically built their own little weird rock man to where that person then got all the energetic power to control the rest. Well, that's why we went stellar. First we went sonic, because that 88D came undone. We did it from Babylon, literally, because it was Michigan, and shit was 2021 Lionsgate. Oh, I said 2021, but it was 2022 in our world. So 2021, what I'm seeing, why everything went sideways, because 2021 is basically how long I've been missing up in that layer until not even fully yet back. because what's happening for me to come all the way in is all of y'all are coming up to me. That's why I'm telling you all of this. We're filling in the cake between 88 over 88D into a sonic setting. In a sonic setting, the reason it's sonic, why is it sonic? Why does it go through sonic before it goes to stellar? Because it's physics and everything was held down. So if you build a little train track and you build a little dollhouse and then you're the one who placed the little people there and you placed the building there and you placed this there and you pinned it down and da 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 da, which literally is what they were doing and how they were keeping us like is nuts how they were doing it, because they were running it from magic down there up there. Is why it's so incomprehensible to the human that this is how it's being done. And then you shake it and you turn the table over. You're like, screw this. I'll just pick up the table. Well, all those pieces are going to go everywhere and then they're going to come to life. And right now, that's the stage that we're in. That's sonic. This, and then a sonic pulse. Then now I'm not tied to you. You're not tied to the street. You're not tied to the house. You're not tied to the highway. So now everything's off. You're over there. The highway's over there. Da 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 da. And frequency codes are coming down at the they're coming up, trying to gravitate you back to that place at the same time that your real codes are coming in and you're connected to the cosmos and you're like, I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to sit right here. Because what's happening is all those connections are being cut from your energy grid, which is stacking in your vertical body, which is bringing you into alignment. And it's basically taking all the magnetic power out of all those intentions. And it's like, so what's happening right now everywhere, all in the cosmos. We're seeing it come off the sun. We saw the sun diver come in. We saw the four big thing. All these cosmic energies. That's what's happening. When it hits a primer and when it hits a stabilization, that's when it goes stellar. This is what Anne Hesh went stellar. Anne Hesh went and got that wig. She was supposed to drive these little lines and da-da-da-da-da all at the same time that me and one of the crew members had left the house. I'd told the woman that I now think was linked to Biden. Anybody that's listening from that, guess what? Wendy was Biden. Biden was made by some Trump-Obama code religious merger. And if you know who Wendy is, you know. Anaheim house, Biden. Family. Connected into all the other ones that have been writing this crazy-ass story from AB negative land up there with messages from down there. She went and got that wig. She had the car. She had the DNA. She did have a DNA sequence. They'd been utilizing her before with it, Ellen and all that, with Anne Hesh. That was her mission. She was supposed to go get that wig and da-da-da-da-da, and then that would have, in some way or form, set up their little weird world on top of the table where everyone's pinned down. And what happened was she hit a stellar current because we had already taken the game board stellar. We had already, the game board on top of the table, we had already, before we flipped it over, of course, we had to what? We had to rise it up. We've been connecting, all of us have been connecting up here, making maneuvers, going, oh wait, you need to kind of move because you're over there, and da 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 da, and go drive around the building 6 times. Go drive around this building 6 times. Go this opposite way. Do this, because the game board was all pinned down on the table. So all for the past 4 years, those currents of all of our movements had been laid in the etheric. So when we flipped the board over, we got somewhere to be. So what's happening is that if you hit a strand to one of us that went stellar, which is what Ann Hesh did, because it was obvious when I left that house that day, I told the woman that owned the house, if I'm not back in an hour, you need to call the police. I've never said that before. Never. I never tell you to call the police, ever. I told her we are leaving for the first time. We had to get to the beach. This was August 2022, after we had broke her out of Babylon. 2 phoenixes flew over. We had to set her in Aurora, Colorado. Had to get her basically inside a hotel room, gridded down, while Obama was there at the hotel. They had baby dolls and spells hung, cut up, all at picnic tables around there. Aurora, Colorado. It's where they always pulled the United States to 88D, connected to Poland. Aurora, Colorado. We were there running our own sequence. They knew that we would be there because they needed us to run the sequence. So as soon as one of us came in, then that's where they were trying to grid us down. Well, me and her are the 2 that went to the beach that day when Ann Hesh got heshed. And whenever I left and told her, we're leaving the house, we hadn't left the house in a while. We had to get to the beach in order to attach that current into the ocean. And is Ann that got heshed, not us. But realize it could have been me and her in a heartbeat if we still would have been on that table. That's an example. And if you know what happened at Hesh, is that her car just hit a grid. This is why you're seeing cars flipping. This is why I've been posting them on TikTok, these past few months, every time I'm seeing it happen, because I know that the only reason it's happening is because somebody was there with the intention in order to grid it. You're not going to hit a stellar lane just by being some rando driving down the road. You're only going to hit a stellar because you're going to be in our frequency then, naturally. You're only going to hit a stellar line if your intention, I'm seeing Jason Momoa, the same day that I'm bringing my crew member from Babylon to what I thought was California. Funny thing is, when I finally left there in 2022, when I finally left California after Pegasus had picked me up, after the whole Columbia bullshit Kardashian raid down on Hermosa Beach, because, see, we had popped into that layer and then they were trying to grid it. Momoa even told me, or the Joseph character that claimed to be Momoa even told me that he was the one responsible for setting me up at the Hermosa Pier. That's why we had to put in the skeleton keys and the harvest codes. That's what's leading us to an entire overhaul and an entire falling of a system. Because each time we got up in there, them knowing exactly who we were and why we were there, they kept choosing to try to take it over. All of that I just described is what happens in your world when you're clearing from 88 up to stellar. It doesn't make any human sense. This is mastery. Now, you don't have to completely master the whole program all the way up unless That's what your mission is, and you're a lead, and you're a pole, and we need you up there, and you're made to. Or your mission and whatever it is that you're designing and that's your soul mission that you're creating, you got to get up there. But I'm also telling you this because that's not where we're going to live. We're not living in this 33 degrees of in between. We're in it right now because in a lot of ways, the ones of us that went up here and said it had to blow out the back and come back through. And we came back through. We're in it. Even the ones of us that were on the other side, we're not on our bodies and our energy are still there on the other side. This is like the sun diver, same thing. The energies and the foundation is there, but us, our beingness, jumped back in because it's made to jump back in and pull up with the rest of y'all. Otherwise, we'd be up there, y'all'd be down here, and it'd be pretty damn lonely. Which is exactly what happened. And another ascension count to form the beginning degrees of Scorpio, which is also Apollonia. This is I'm also describing how the Amazon women, because we had gotten to this point before. That's what set up Scorpio. That's why Scorpio became water from air and eagle, because the female, all of us females that were connected into the Cleo codes and the Egyptian codes and da 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 da, over other ascensions, we had already escaped that. We had but Apollonia was formed because we didn't get all the way out and then come back in to pull the rest of everyone up with us, knowing the way out. And we have to be inside the human bubble and the human race at this time because all those grid systems are down. We're the ones that are holding these kite strings because we've been charting it since it started in 2017. This is what these 33 timelines are. This is what I mean whenever I'm talking about overwriting them. This is what I mean whenever I tell you that I basically was kind of inside somebody's body, and on August 3rd, 2023, this year is when they pushed some type of nuke button, but it's what they always did. They always blew up everything, thinking that it would resettle on their little weird table. I'm going to say it again. They'd always blow up everything. That demo nuclear test site, there is no test of that proportion. You blow a nuclear bomb, you blow Hiroshima, you blow it, it is done. There's no test. You accidentally drop one on South Carolina, it went off. They know that. So if everything blows up and then it sedates and then it drops back down on their weird little table, then that's what builds their weird little sim. Well, August 3rd, they pushed that button. But y'all had me at that point. I was all the way up. I was basically with what you'd consider the AI aliens. I was in that little realm. I was in that little layer. I was already there. It's why I've been trained. It's why I knew the Japanese ciphers. It's why I couldn't stop until this was done, because I was the only one that was up there. And whenever they blew it and then they started writing the codes, I was on the phone with the Netherlands, with MIM, and we took it over. We took over the rewrite. We took over the DNA rewrite. We took over the whole thing. There was one point where I was having to go fast. We had 4 seconds. There it goes again. 4 seconds. We had 4 seconds on them that I was out coding them, and we were toe to toe. And then I'll never forget, I can't remember what code section I was at because it's going so fast. what code section I was at, and I heard, bitch! And I knew I got him. And then as soon as I heard that, I felt a frantic energy, and I was like, "Oh my God, man, we just did it. We took it." I just heard him call me a fucking bitch, and then boom, 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 boom. Then it was all we brought in, all the colors. We brought in everything to this dimension, to that realm. We brought in all the colors. We brought in all everything that you need in order to get out. Their whole thing was to only program this area with a vase and a mosquito, basically. Because it had to do with insectoids and bugs, and it's how they were getting in, and they wanted the way to get in, but they didn't want any of us to have the resurrection codes. And it is literally a cosmic rebirth setting to where everything's connected. And since I at that point had the knowledge and knew what was connected and already knew what's coming, because the only reason that the human couldn't have all of your powers and gifts is because you were held in a weird little freaking bubble and it would crack. Well, no more bubble. There is, but it's way far out. This is why we had to pull the M35 sun. M35 sun's in your core. M35 sun ain't out there. M35 sun's in the middle. M35 sun's at the bottom of Perseus. M35 sun's right here. Perseus starts up here and comes straight in like a snake. M35 sun right there. Well, December 24th, if you want to go look at my TikTok, or if you want to go look at any of the last goes, we had a massive blowout here, here, and here, because we ignited that sun. It's not a sun out here. It's in here. And basically what it did, boom, was blow everything out. And we already had a seam way out there. Your Lyra heart, no longer 6 strands. No longer called Lyra. You're clearing, the whole entire collective is clearing Capricorn and this harp that your energies were running through to get you into this bubble, this bubble, this bubble, this bubble of perception, because it's basically what it was. Now you've got a 4-strand harp that's basically on raw, just raw, no angle to the Y, just raw, and it's way further out. And there's only 4 strands. 4. Y'all have any questions? Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Danielle, for the healing. There's 8 of y'all left on here. I know I gave you a whole lot. We'll probably have to go back and I'll listen to this a couple of times. Right now, if y'all have any questions, write them, and I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm starting to hurt from talking. The last thing I want to talk about is this spell. So what was happening is January, well, it really started New Year's Eve night, and it really starts with even the ball drop in New York and how we do New Year's and even fireworks. All these weird New Year's rituals that people do all over the world were actually being used in order to keep the table steady. This is why New York Times Square had the ball drop, but then also every month, or I don't know if it was every month or every week, they'd have a sunset party in the Times Square. See, that sunset party was always keeping on the table. And so in our world, 2019, right before 2020, several connections and several ones of us had a connection that came in that was your true connection, your true union connection, if you or your true partner connection. If you and I'm getting this right now, if you had a connect that it was the true one, if you had a connection that came in at the end of the second half of December 2019, that then changed drastically after January, this is why. The true connection had to come in for all of us. Damn it, it's the true one. I mean, you know, this is dealing with twin stuff, and this is just me having a reaction right now to the information that just came in, because I mean, this is to unions and stuff and all the hell that both parties have been through, whether you're the one that knew consciously that they got taken over, or they are just now realizing they got taken over and were fed a bunch of lies about you, same as you's fed a bunch of lies about them, because it was going from two different bubbles in a plan. But they had to send us the true one. This is what I'm hearing right now. They had to send us the true one right before the 2020 new, because those of us that have the true cosmic count, we're the ones that they had to pin in order to make the table. January 1, they all went missing. And they went missing for 3 days. And then whenever they came back, January 3rd is different. That is what in tandem is working right now in these sonic and stellar layers, because it just kind of depends on where that energy was planted, how far up, how far down, if it's just now unwinding from a placement, a fix into a sonic, or if it's going from sonic to stellar. It'll have to go through the cycle no matter. And that January 1st, 2020 binding spell went to the entire world. And this is how this parallel emerged and was getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger as we're building on this side, getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's what this has all been about, trying to suck us into it, trying to get out of it, trying to evolve through it, push through it. That's what this last 3 years and this next year, the 4th year, this final year, is the one that's going to be undoing it all, as if the last 3 years never happened. But since they did, the only avenue in creation and the only railroads and channels that were made in a pure creation field, because it's what we had, it was completely pure, we had to build it all. This is where the stories of how everything and the interactions that you had with all these people these past 3 years are going to come into play, because remember, it's the only writing that's out there with them in it. So it really has to be, that story is the story. but it's because it was written in a vector in the last 3 years. But this is where the energies are going to untangle and merge it to be whatever it needs to be before the spell took place with its full cosmic energies outside of a vector. So right now, until January 3rd, and especially tomorrow and the 29th, is where we're in this weird flux, and it's a weird energy right now, and it's almost on the verge of hopelessness. It goes up and down from hopelessness to complete overjoy. You know something's gonna happen. It's because we're in this little layer right now all together, and everyone's having, and the whole table just got flipped. And everybody's still getting all their messages and whatever, but those of us that are sitting in that top layer, that are looking down like on a see-through bottom of a boat, and we're going, it looks like they're further away than they are, but they're right there. And you're like, come on, come on, come on, I'm right here, I'm right here. You need to come up here. Well, that's what's happening, and I'm telling this to myself too, because yesterday I was in a lot of pain and I just felt hopelessness. Well, this is helping me. This is why we've done something that's never been done before. Not only that, it takes cycles of time for it to fully complete because it's done in the ethers, and 10 months from now, this baby is off like a rocket because of everything that happened December 24th, December, January, February, March. March, we're going to see something massive. 3 months. Actually, we'll see the first knowing of what's going to happen in 9 months and 10 months around January 24th. So mark your calendars, because around January 24th is whenever, 30 days after all those energies blew out those 4 posts, something will happen down here that will show us what it blew out. Then 3 months later, March, April, May, June, we get into June, it's going to hit a mass flow. We're going to start seeing it. Then June, July, August, September 24th, that'll be 9 months. That's the full thing, impact of it. And then at 10 months is when it sets. After 9 months, then it's more like you, as a sovereign being. After 9 months, if you were involved in doing it, which you were, your energetic was involved in it, no matter, you're holding a post because you were in the layer, okay? It doesn't have to be in front of your face. You don't have to be dealing with it in front of your face, but realize that no matter, we're still kind of all working together and bound together until at least September in these hires, okay? When that sets after 9 months, then at the 10th month is when you're deciding if you want to stay in or not. Between 9 months and 10 months is where you're saying, okay, wait a minute, I'm, for instance, maybe you're done with all this grid work and and what you're moving into doesn't have anything to do with it, and that's all completed, and now you're doing something else. Fine. But realize that what I just said with those dates is involved with every single interaction that you have, every single healing that you've ever done, every person and conversation that you have about, period. Because you're the one in the dimension. Okay? So just realize that even whenever you break up with somebody, that it's going to take 9, 10 months to completely unwind your energy from them. The more that we remember that, then the more that we can understand why we feel like we're being pulled and pushed and and understanding that you do have the control in it, but it's energetic as to You know, like for instance, this one character, I sent a message yesterday. I don't even know if this person is getting the messages anymore. It's like a ghost that you're talking to in your head. So it's almost like sending messages to a dead person in a lot of ways. In order to like get it out of your system. And I sent a message. I was like, okay, if you're not thinking about me, why the F do I see your face all the time? Like all the time. This person's face will just pop up in my third eye, like staring at me. When I'm not thinking about or doing just like how if you're not thinking about me. Now, the other thing that it could be if they're not thinking about me is that each time it gets to one of those 88 gates that our energy was merged together, I'd see it. If I'm bound with another being in this crazy cosmos system, which I knew I was, because I mean I was an ancient. This was merger of parallels. There's 5 groups that were merging into one that came down to 2 before it went into 1. So 5 became 2, then 2 became 1. Because there's only going to be one reality that holds, no matter. There might be a lower version of it, but it's still our reality. And they're in rehab. There is no hell. Mars is hooked on by a freaking, like, the lower realm is tethered to the higher realm a little bit deeper. It's tethered to it. We can't get rid of it because it's too entrenched in all of us, and we need them back there. We got to go run and ask them questions every now and then. We got to send somebody to find out some information every now and then. But their experience down there is not the same as what ours is up here because it's down there. And it's like rehab. It's not hell. You can't sacrifice something. You can't give nothing away. You can't sell somebody out in order. You've got to. Your only option back there is to clear and get on the big ship. That's your only option. If you're human. If you weren't human, then now you're part of the planetary system, and somebody will see you in a million years. Good luck.